Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for being here and joining us today. One of the big things that I like to do in my profession and over the time that I've been doing this is really figuring out how can I make people's lives easier? How can I help them to learn more about how to use a tool and really get value out of that tool? So whenever I talk about tools, you can know for sure that I'm already using this with my clients. I'm already using this personally. I believe in the tool. So today I've got a few neat things to show you about cool things you guys can do with this tool as well. So I'm going to take over sharing, and can you see my screen? Small groups, because especially in webinars, because that means we all get to talk to each other and ask questions. You have plenty of time. It's not like there's a bazillion people that you're fighting against to get those questions answered. So feel free to post in the chat if you have any specific questions, and let us know if you need anything. But today I wanted to show you some of my favorite stuff around the Data View web part, because there's really neat things you can do with this, and it's really truly solved some of the pain points for some of my clients, because sometimes they come to me and they're like, hey, can we do this in SharePoint? And I'm like, well, out of the box, not really. Maybe you used to be able to, but you can't anymore. Or maybe you could if you're a developer and want to spend the next 2 years custom coding something. But if you really are just like, no, I just really want to solve this problem and be able to do this, this web part does a lot of that. So first and foremost, this is like the number one thing people ask me for is, hey, I've got multiple calendars in SharePoint and I want to see them all in one place. And I just wanted to show you how nice this is. I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller so you can kind of see it all in one screen. But this is the Calendar Plus tool, and look how pretty this is. I get people ask me all day long for a really nice calendar view web part. And what this does is it allows you to, first of all, out of the box, just throw this web part on your page, super easy. You add it just like any other web part. So I'm going to pop this into edit mode so you can see how easy this is. I've already got, oops, let me refresh this because I had it open. So it's like, hey, you're on a demo. Let's be annoying. Okay, let's try this again. All right, there we go. So I want to show you how easy this is. I've already got this ready to go so you can see it because, yeah, SharePoint likes to act like that when it gets on a webinar. What in the heck? It's only because I had it all ready to go. All right. I can show you what it actually looks like because it's already done. I'm going to switch pages. Third try's a charm, right? There it goes. Gonna force me to sign back in. Timing, right? There it goes. Okay. So here's how this is really easy. So I'm just on a regular SharePoint page. This is the web part here, but I just want to show you how easy it is to add this in. You just do your normal add new web part. And then I have these quiz parts loaded. Check this out. They're just web parts. So you can go in here. There's all these different options. I've got a demo for the picture gallery and the work chart today, but you can see like if you wanted to do the filter, and I don't know if you guys remember back in the old days with SharePoint on-prem, there was the real nice filter web parts, and some of those don't really work the same anymore. This is real nice. This list aggregator is cool. So if you've got multiple lists, but you know how you're kind of limited by a couple, maybe you're using the lookup tool, but the lookup tool is okay at best. You can use this web part and it'll pull multiple lists together without having to mess with that. So we're going to start with this Data View Plus web part. And the really neat thing is it's really easy to configure. So all you have to do is go in here and there's the little data icon. And you can add your data sources right here. So you can import something if maybe you have like a CSV file you want to pull in, or maybe you want to add a specific data source from somewhere. You just click this add button, you give it a name, and then you pick what data. So it could be from anywhere. You can name it whatever you want, data from SharePoint, or maybe you want to call it a specific list. Maybe it's a, HR list. Whatever it is that you want to give it a name, you can call it whatever you want. And this becomes handy later because see over here where I've got these little tabs. Whatever you name it, you can then use it to like group, organize, tab that information, and then check this out. this is cool. If you've ever done data and you're like, I don't want to have to pay somebody to write all the API connections, I don't want to have to custom code all of this. As somebody who's had to integrate a lot of stuff for a long time, this is really easy. This makes it like ABC easy. So I can come down here and maybe I just want to use a SharePoint list that's already set up. Maybe I've already used the list aggregator tool to pull some stuff together, and then I want to pull the aggregation of that into a different view. Maybe I want to use the graph. Maybe I want to use an existing Excel file, or maybe I have an external data source. I want to go to Dataverse, or I want to go to another data source that I've got set up, a different view in SQL maybe. Maybe I'm using something that's not direct. Maybe I've got a custom API that I've configured and I'm not going through the graph. I've just got all these super duper easy choices. SharePoint list is probably the one I use the most just because it's super easy and built into it. And once you check this out, like once you select that, then it's just going to say, okay, which site do you want to use? Look how easy that is. It defaults to the current site, but maybe you want to go to a different site. Here's the really neat part about this. As long as the people who are looking at it have access to the content, you can now pull data in across sites, which in my opinion is huge, makes everything super easy. I didn't have to do anything custom for this. I could go to any site I want. It's going to tell me what's eligible from that particular site. And these are just the ones I've used to create for this particular demo. I've got this travel request one down here, so if I wanted to pull those in, I could. You just pick what you want. And then once you've done that, so let's say, we've done this. I'm going to show you what this all looks like because I've already pre-baked the cookies. You pick that for whatever you want, and then decide how you want to see it. So once it resolves, it's going to give you all the views that it has available. I know this kind of reminds you of the way it used to be, which is my point. If you've done this in the past with some of the older tools, you should know kind of how to do this. So now it's going to give me the views that I've already made. So if you want it to be a custom view, it's really easy. Just go into the list, make your view, and then come back in here and pick what you want. And there it will be right there. You can just pick whatever you want. And then check out over here on the left-hand side. It's already giving me a preview. It's like, oh, that's what you want? No problem. Let's just use the default settings, and see how it says Open Designer to choose the details. So it's already giving me a preview of pulling that data through so that I know that it's grabbing the right data. I know that it's pulling the things I want it to pull. This right here is my all events list. Maybe, oh no, I actually wanted it to pull the IT events. So once I do this and give it a second to resolve, it will update and it'll pull there we go. Let's just give it a second. It's got to go out and find it, and it's got to pull it in. There we go. And you can see over here, now it's pulling that stuff in from a different calendar. So the really neat thing is you can have this. And then if you want multiples on this calendar, okay, I've already got one in here. Oh, that was actually the IT events. So I can go up here and edit it. I love that I can edit things while I'm working on them. I don't have to know what to do and then get mad because I have to go back and rename the entire thing afterwards. I can just do it while I'm working on it right in here. It's being a little slow because I'm doing a webinar and doing video and sharing and trying to build it all at the same time. But I can just make all these changes right here. And then I'm like, okay, that's a cool one. I'm good with this. Everything's ready. So now I want to add another data source. So you can just do this right down here on the side, and you can make all these different data source. Check, there's another one. So now if I want to pull IT events, I want to pull HR events, I want to pull all company events in, and this can be on this site and or other sites. This is the neat part about this, is that now I want to pull all that stuff into one calendar. It's really easy to do this. And then I showed you where I had the little tabs up here in display groups. You can now also decide how I want to organize that in the view. And I'll show you how this looks in a minute. You just click this Add Display Group. And the really nice thing is, here's the first group, and it's the same thing as your data that you just set up. You give the group a name. So maybe this is, I want to see all company data, and maybe I want to group in HR and IT and accounting, but I want it to all come together. Or maybe I've got an HR internal and an HR external, and I want this to be all HR pulled together into one view. So I can pull my HR internal calendar, my HR external calendar, and I can pull them together. And only the people who have access to that are going to see that data. But I can say I want to combine all of that from this site and this site into one view so that those HR people don't have to go look at two separate calendars anymore. They can see it all in one place. And then the type of data, you just click this drop down, and depending on what it is you want to show, the generic items is like text, right? So it's like, if you see this information down here, maybe I want to show calendar items, maybe I want to show org chart information, maybe I want to show pictures. In this case, this is a calendar, so I'm going to be pulling calendar data types into this. And then what it's going to say down here is it's going to say, okay, all of the calendar data sources are included. And then I can go one step further. And on the back end, the permissions are already set. But maybe on top of that, I want to create an additional target audience that's based on this particular SharePoint site. I can then limit this target audience, if I have target audience enabled, to also only display the things to people who have access. So now I've got this, only the people who have access can even get access to it. And then on top of that, I want to even further that in by using a target audience piece right here. So I can set all of that up. And once I'm done, I'll have that, that tab or the group, depending on how I want to do it. And I can do this again and again and again, just like my data. Maybe during all of this, I'm like, this is really cool, but I want a different web part. I can switch this on the fly. So as I'm building this web part out, yeah, I picked this one to start, but maybe I want to switch this around while I'm working on it. I've got all the options right there. I'm just going to close this. I didn't even have to really do anything. And then it'll automatically set that up for me. And like I told you, I had pre-baked cookies. So just like any other web part, I can go in here, I can manage it just by editing the properties. I can duplicate it if I like what I've got, or I can just clean it up by getting rid of it like anything else. So I have set one of these up for you so that you can kind of see how pretty this is. I've already set some of the configuration settings. I've already set the way that it looks, so that you can see how pretty it is afterwards. You can see that I can manage some of this stuff. So maybe I want anything that's all day to be highlighted. Maybe I want it to have a condition around it. So I can set little pretty icons down here to make them look nice. I can do shading. So we're going to republish this page to get rid of some of the behind the scenes system-y type stuff. And then you'll be able to see. Give it just a second. Come on, SharePoint, you can do it. Believe in you. Refresh it. There it goes. All right. I know it's shocking. Microsoft is being a little slow today. Let's try that again. There it goes. Now you could do it. All right. So now look how pretty this web part looks. And you could see all that background stuff to where it's super easy to manage. It's super easy to do things with. Now I've limited it to this is everything, but maybe I only want to have a different view for the HR. So you can see how for the all, I have a calendar view. I've got it overlapped. I've got the different events in different colors. I can limit it by any of the specific things that I want to see. If I only want to see the all company, I can just click and unclick these and it will show and hide. And this is me as the user now. I can see what I want to see. Maybe I want to have targeted groups that show specific things for specific people in a different way. I want to see this at a month. I want to scroll this at a month. I want to be able to see what's on here. I want to be able to click on, oh, I want to look at this, so I'm going to pop it open. Because I selected that calendar item view, it gives me the entire calendar item view. I can edit the item right here. I even used the old SharePoint calendar app for this demo on purpose because I know a lot of people still use that. And they're like, yeah, but will it work with those? Check it out. Yes, it will. It'll work with this, whether it's a modern list with the calendar view turned on, or whether you use the calendar app and then you still are using those calendar items. You just have to be selective about which ones you pick. So I can pop it up there. Maybe I want to see these HR events a little bit differently. So I can look at just the HR events. And then if you look over here with this particular view, I can go into each event. I can view the properties. I can email it. I can pop it open. And if I have edit access, maybe I'm on the HR team, I would be able to edit these items. So depending on what I have access to do, I'm allowed to do that. I can also export this information if this little icon is enabled. So if I wanted to select items and just export them out to a CSV file directly from here, I could. So maybe I want items off the calendar. I want to pop it out to a spreadsheet so I can then, you know, maybe work with it or look at it in a way that makes more sense to me. I can do that. So it kind of takes you back to this really nice way that SharePoint allows you to work with these items. This is probably one of my favorite ways to use this particular web part. I've set it up for clients. They absolutely love it. It solves their problem. It looks nice. You can modify it. You can manage it. You can customize it to look the way you want. But I've been real happy with it overall. And it just solves a problem that I know multiple clients have tried to solve with custom solutions. And you know, at the end of the day, it's a lot of effort and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of money to build something custom like this. And so it's really nice just to have something you can pop in here and use. So my second favorite one that I like is this picture gallery. So in the picture gallery, the really cool thing is it's exactly the same kind of concept in terms of it's really easy to add. I'm going to edit this so you can see how this works. So all you do is just add it the same way. And then if you want to edit it, so this up here, you can edit the actual web part by just clicking the little gear. And it'll let you decide, you know, what are the things that I want to show? What are the things I don't want to show right here up at the top? How do I want to see this? And I've got all these different options of different ways that I can display these images. If I want to do a custom style, I've even got the ability to come in here and do some of my own editing. If I want to export and import data, I can do that as well. And then if I want to get a little bit more granular, once I've selected that, I can go a little bit further. So in this particular one, you can see in the image caption, I'm pulling the title in. So I'm dynamically using the fields that already exist around the metadata. So let's say you've put a lot of time and effort into building out metadata for your images. And I know I've worked with organizations in the past who have like gigantic media libraries. They pull in a lot of images. They do a lot with those things. And then they're like, well, we put all this time into the metadata. So now how can we use it? Right here, you can specifically just dynamically grab whatever field you want and show that. So if you've got a description that you want to display, this is one of those things where I did work with an organization. They spent a lot of time custom developing the ability for their marketing and their communications departments to pop in here and be able to like see all of this information. But this is easy. You just pop it in, you say which field you want to do, you throw it in brackets, and you can display it right here on your screen. You can decide if you see this is what they call the carousel, this little pop up here that's got the little images. Do I want to see the carousel or not? And if I turn it off, it'll give me a preview right there of whether or not I want it, which I love. I love having a preview. That way I don't have to worry about like, did it work? Did it not work? You know, if you've got dark mode, you can have that enabled. Maybe I don't want to use dark mode, and then check out how pretty it turns it into. If I want to be able to switch while I'm on the web part, I can decide whether or not I'm going to let my user switch modes. And then I've got an advanced mode if I want to get really fancy in here and do some really crazy things. So you can see how easy that is. And just like in the calendar web part that I just showed, the data sourcing is exactly the same. In this case, all I've done is I've grabbed an image list from this particular site. See, current site. I'm just pointing it to this document library, honestly. Super easy. Maybe I want to use a different library. I can just scroll down and be like, oh, is there a different library that I'd rather use for this web part? I could do that if I wanted to. Or I could pull content off of a different site. Maybe I have images on 2 or 3 different sites. You know, marketing has some, communication has some, and one of the departments has some. And, you know, this is when we talk about like organizational asset libraries and everybody's got those in that one library, but sometimes you just don't. Sometimes you're like, no, my marketing people want to manage some stuff. My communication people want to manage some stuff. I've got a department that wants to own their own photos, their own media. No problem. I could pull all of those places right here. I just add all those different data sources, decide what content I want to show, which view I want to select. So maybe they've gone in there and they've created views. I only want to see, trees, or I only want to see fish, or whatever it is that they want to show. They've got a view created for that. And then what's really nice is if I've got a custom view made, now think about it this way. I've got all this metadata and I've got like 50 metadata columns to be able to map this data, but I only want to see what's in the view, which is maybe the title and the description. I can say I only want to get the view columns because I don't want to have to get all that other data. I don't even need it for this particular view. So I can turn that off. And then I can also go down here and say, what's my maximum number of items? And I can either use the view settings, which is defined in the view, or I can manually override that if I only want to see a certain number. So a lot of times on an intranet homepage, I want to limit, I only want to see 3 images, or I only want to see 1 image. I can manually override that if the view settings are higher than what I want, or I can control that in the view settings, depending on how I want to do it. Right? If I want to manage the column mapping, this is a little bit different. If I've got it in a folder structure, I really tell people don't put things in a folder structure, but there it is. And if I want to be able to color code, this is a little bit better in the calendar, which is what I was showing you, but you still can use this here. And once you're all done, same thing, you could have display groups if you want, just like we did in the calendar web part. Once you're all done, it's really easy. You just close it, you click the republish button, and voila, look how pretty this is. I mean, this looks like you just spent a ton of time custom developing the solution. And you can put this, maybe you have a marketing team that needs to look through things. Look, I've got the title right here, just displaying right here on the image. So if I wanted this to have a lot of information, maybe where the location is of the image I took, maybe if I want the date, maybe if I've got a description of that image, maybe if I've got protections built around it, like regulatory protections built around it, you can use this image in these scenarios. I can even put notes like ask so-and-so if you need to get information about this image. And the really cool thing is I can see the full image, but maybe I want to go like this. And how much better is this than folders? So I can just and I can scroll through this. So if I had hundreds and hundreds of images in here, I could just sit and scroll through them. I get a little thumbnail up here. Oh yeah, that was the image I was looking for. I want to use this one. Now I know which one it is. And it just gives me a lot of control over it. I can right click on it. It'll take me directly there. So I just love this little image web part. The other thing you can do with this is it's got some really neat views that are a little bit more than what you can do in SharePoint. So in this one, I created a whole different image library. So you saw in my data source that I had documents just because I wanted to show you how simple it is. It's not hard. Documents, and I created another image library. And look at this. I really just went into ChatGPT and I made some images, or in DALL-E, I went into DALL-E and made some images, and I threw them in here. And I just thought, hey, okay. And then I was like, I want to show you guys some of the cool ways that you can see this. So this is just simply a view in this web part, and it's this photo pile view. And so if you have a ton of images, but you're like, I just want to be able to see them kind of in a cool way where I can see them, but they look nice. I can see it here. If I want to look a little bit closer, maybe I like this one, I can click on this one and it'll zoom in. I've retained the ability to just flip through them in this film strip view. I of course put adorable little kittens because I thought, who doesn't want to see adorable little kittens? And little paperclip princesses, because who doesn't want to see something pretty? And if I want to get out, see how this has got the little title down here? I can just click away from it and it'll take me back to this view. Maybe I don't like this view. Maybe I wanted to change this view. And that's where I was showing you it's so simple because all you have to do once again is just edit your page. And I've got this image view and I can just change the gears. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go to this view. So I go to this little gear right here. And see right here, here's the content control. Maybe I don't want the photo pile. Maybe I'd rather see it in a slideshow, check it out. It gives me a preview and I'm like, whoa, no, that's way too big. I don't want that for my screen. Maybe I want to try the list. How does the list look? Well, okay, that's fine. It's kind of boring, but maybe the photo pile was the right option. So it kind of depends. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? But I love just how easy this is, that I can just go through here. I can pick what I want, turn things on and off, close out, republish, voila. Like, look how easy that is. Because people are like, they come to me all the time. I just want something that I can do myself. I don't want to hire a developer for this. I do not want to have to pay somebody to manage this web part. I just want to get it. I want to bring it in and I want to be able to configure it. That's it. And it's like, okay, well, here, look how easy this is. There it is. I got it for you. So that's the second one, which is the quiz picture gallery. And these are all the same web part. All you're doing is changing the way you look at things. So just like in a SharePoint list or library, all you have to do is change the view to make it look a little bit different. These are just super fancy views. So same web part, but this is the calendar view. This is the picture view. And then I love this org chart. So this org chart, this is a big one that people ask me for. I want to do an org chart, Sharon, and I, have used the org chart web part that's built into SharePoint. It's all right. Do you have anything that's better? And I'm like, you need to check out the KWIZ org chart. It's super cool, super easy to use. And yeah, gonna sound a lot like the things I just told you. So all I have to do is go in here, edit my page, add the web part, just like you do the out of the box web part. All right, so if I just pop in here, click my little plus, wait patiently because I'm also on a Teams webinar, so it's going to be slow. Come on, you can do it. See, this is why I pre-make this, because if SharePoint gets shy on camera, then I already got it. So you just add it just like a regular web part. You can see that I've already got it built in here. Same thing. Look, I love the fact that they're web parts. All the quiz web parts kind of follow the same structure. So you're not like, this thing's a little different and that thing's a little different. They're very simple to use. Everything is straightforward. All of the UI, all of the design, very simple, very straightforward. Let's see if it's going to pop up. I'm going to refresh this because it's getting kind of slow. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Let's see if it'll let me do it now. Okay. So you can see, I just named this SPO. You can name it whatever you want, just like I showed you before. I just called it SharePoint Online because it made sense to me, but you can call it whatever you want. I'm simply pulling in from a list. All I did was seed a list with data. Okay, that's all I did. And I'll show you what I did here. I just pop this up so you can see what this looks like. So I don't want to go back to that page. All I did for this demo, look, I made this is how simple this is. And so you can only imagine, like, if this is the simple part, imagine if you really like spent time, really playing with it and building it out. Look, this is a SharePoint list, put a bunch of names, a bunch of positions, who their manager is. This has a little bonus feature of if maybe they have a manager, but they also have an indirect report. You've got this extra little bonus feature here. You can put pictures in them. Once again, Dolly for the win, right? I just grabbed a little fake headshots and threw them in here. I do notice Dolly likes to do the little landscape photos. If you do square photos, it works better in this, but these do the job. You put their phone, you put their email address, like super simple, right? Super basic. I just popped it in here and then I referenced it in the web part. So I just went over, I want to go to the current site. I want to use that org chart list. And then maybe you've made some custom views. You can use whatever view you want. Same thing, I can limit it to just the view column so that it's a little quicker. I can set a maximum of number of items, which I'll show you, how we can do that too up here. If you want to map, so maybe your column isn't exactly what you think the column should be. And so you're like, no, we have a different one. I want to use a different one. So in this case, I want to use the reports too, or I want to use, maybe I've got multiple managers and I want to use a different manager structure. Maybe I've got multiple picture fields that I want to use. Maybe I've got multiple email, right? So you can pull all this information here. You can map it directly. I love that you don't have to use what's there. You can map it to a different one and then leave that other one in there for later if you want to use it a different way. I can color code. So if I want to show maybe, for example, I want to put a different color for anything that comes from this specific list. So maybe I've got a list of HR resources, I've got a list of IT resources, I've got a list of accounting resources, and I want the HR resources to be identified with a color behind them. I could then pull in an HR list, I could pull in an IT list, I could put in an accounting list, and only the HR list people would be identified. Or maybe I want a separate list of executives. And so I'm going to put everybody together, but I have a separate list of executives and I want the executives to be marked with a different color so that so that I know exactly who those are. Yeah, that's a great question, Janie. She said, can the org chart use the user profiles? Absolutely. So that is actually one of my favorite things, is that you can go to this data source right here and you can use an Excel file that lives in SharePoint. You can use the graph. You can use a SharePoint list like I showed, or you can go directly to the SharePoint user profiles. Now, the user profiles, I will give you one little proviso with that. If anybody's dealt with user profiles, you are my people and you know the pain, but you have to make sure that your Entra manager profiles are all set up. You have to give it however long the timer job is to run, assuming it runs, to update your user profiles. And if it's not the way you want it, I highly recommend that you go to the back end of your SharePoint admin, go into your user profiles under, I think it's under advanced, more features and more settings or something like that. Go to the user profile area, check your user profiles. If you want it to like change immediately, go into those user profiles and update who the managers are, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to go in here and if that's not all set up, it's just going to be a big mess. So yes, it absolutely can, Janie. Just make sure that your user profiles are cleaned up and make sure your Entra is cleaned up from a manager perspective and it all maps correctly, and then you'll be good to go. And I do love that it'll do that automatically. It's one of the few tools that I've ever seen that just it's in harmony with everything that's in SharePoint, which I just absolutely love. So once you're done with all that, you can go into here, and just like the other one I showed you, you can go in here, but check this out. Okay, so once you're in here and you've got it all built out, you're like, well, okay, I kind of like that. You can decide how many levels do I want to see right here. So you could have done that in the first one, but this one's a little bit easier because now that I've got it all put out here, I can kind of think about it a minute. And I can play with this a little bit. So I can say, oh, I want to see 3. Let me give that. Oh, how does that look? Remember I told you it's got that extra little that extra little reports to line. So I've got this line and I've got this extra little reports to line, so I can report to up to 2 people. No big deal. It's got an assistant setting in here you can put in. But maybe I can see how 3 looks. Maybe I want to pop in 4. How does 4 look? Let's see how bad that looks. Oh, okay, that's not too awful, right? So you can kind of do this on the fly and see, depending on what org chart you're building for what reason, you can kind of play with the way it looks. You can decide, is this a top-down structure? Is it a bottom-up structure? Do I want to do it right to left or left to right? And I just love that you can preview this while we're doing it. Maybe I want to do it top down, but I want to align it to the left so that it looks nice. So it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what you want that view to look like. But I love that it has all these options. And if it's not enough for you, you can still customize it. And if you can't figure it out, what I have found with my clients, you just call KWIZ. You're like, hey, can you help me with this? They're like, absolutely. They're super helpful, making anything you want to look the way you want. There's the templates that are out of the box right here. Check this out. Maybe I like this one better. I want to see how they look. I just love being able to go in and look and kind of get this really quick preview. And then I can even dig into this a little further and make it look however I want it to look. But there's all these different options right here. And so you can kind of play with this preview, see which one you like, and then pick the one that you want to land on. And then whenever you're done, it's really great because, okay, see how these are referencing? These are the fields that are on here, and they're referencing that list and those particular mapped fields so that we show the things we want to show on here. And it just makes everything so easy. And then when I'm all done, once again, super easy. I just republish my SharePoint web page, and look how pretty this is. It just shows me everything. And this hamburger menu can be hidden. So if you don't want people to have it, they don't have to. But I love the fact that I can just pop in here. I want to PDF this. I want to send it out to a CSV file. Maybe I want to make this a full screen. So I'm doing a presentation and I want to be able to pull, and then if I click on it, check this out. See, I told you it kind of gets squished. If it's not a square photo, it looks fine like here. But then once I zoom in, might stick to a square photo once it goes into these round, but then once again, it just depends on what you're doing. But look at this, it's all interactive. So maybe I'm doing a presentation, or maybe I'm like trying to figure out, like maybe I'm doing some planning on who's going to be doing what. And I want to go in here as an HR person and I want to see how this works. I can view their full profile right here. So this is all the SharePoint stuff that I've got built out. I can see what's in SharePoint behind the scenes. It is interactive. So I've got, as long as their information is entered in here, it'll all be updated. Maybe I want to call them, maybe I want to email them. It's all just built right in there. Maybe I want to view the hierarchy a little bit further. Like, how neat is this? I love it so much. You're never going to find this out of the box. It would take you so long to build all of this. Right, then I want to get back out of it. I just click this little hamburger menu, click the full screen option again, and there I am back where I started. It's also got a search, so this is like a super large, wonky thing, and I want to be able to search. Look how nice that is. Guys, if you've got a gigantic org structure, you want to be able to find somebody, you want to be able to filter, super easy. You just go in there and search.